Welcome to Class 2 Political Science class. Today, I will start Lesson 7 Organs of the Government, the Executive. Today's topic is the Executive Meaning and Functions. It covers your pages from 253 till 260. The objectives of the lesson are divided into 6 days. As today is the first day, the topic is the meaning and functions of the executive. Today's topic is divided into following objectives. The first I will discuss the introduction, then I will discuss the meaning of executive, then I will discuss the two parts of executive, that is political executive, permanent executive. Then I will talk about the main points of difference between political executive and permanent executive. Then I will discuss the functions of the executive. Students, there are 9 functions of the executive. This I will discuss in detail during the lecture. As I already told you, it covers your pages from 253 till 260. Now, before the starting of the today's lecture, I will discuss the key terms with you. The first term is executive. The example is in India, there is a president, ministers, civil servants, etc. all come in this category. The part of the government responsible for the implementation of laws and policies adopted by the legislature. The executive is often involved in framing of the policy. The official designations of the executive vary from country to country. Some countries have presidents while others have chancellors. The next key term is welfare state. The example is India with the implementation of directive principles is becoming a welfare state. Like for an example, food security to all Indians are guaranteed under the National Food Security Act 2013, where the government provides food grains to the economically vulnerable people at a very subsidized rate. So this is implementation of directive principle, and this way India is becoming a welfare state. The welfare state is sometimes criticized as being a nanny state in which adults are coddled and treated like children. You know who is nanny? Nanny is the person who looks after the children, who does the babysitting. So the welfare state is a form of government in which the state protects and promotes the economic and social well-being of the citizens based upon the principles of equal opportunity, equitable distribution of wealth, and public responsibility for citizens. The next key term is civil servants. The example is Sardar Gurpreet Singh Khera, 2009 batch IAS officer, is the Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar in 2021. So nowadays he is Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar. So the civil servants belong to the permanent executive branch of the Republic of India. Civil servants are employees of the Government of India and work on policy making and implementation of the laws. So as Sardar Gurpreet Singh Khera is a civil servant and he is working under the Government of India, and he is at present the Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar. Now I will tell you the types of civil services in India. There are these types of civil services: Indian Administrative Service, in short it is called IAS, then Indian Foreign Service IFS, Indian Police Service IPS, Indian Revenue Service IRS. This is one of the most coveted posts in the civil services due to the prestige attached to it. The next key term is political executive. The example is the President, Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, members of Legislative Assembly fall in the category of political executives. Their tenure is not permanent. So you see students, all their executives, President, Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, they all are executives. Their tenure is not permanent. As we know, we are living in a democratic state and there are elections after 5 years, so it means their tenure is not permanent. They are for short term. The President of India is the head of the state and the Commander in Chief of the Indian Armed Forces, whilst the elected Prime Minister acts as the head of the executive and is responsible for running the union government. The executive is one of the important branch of the government without which a government cannot function. It implements all the laws or policies framed by the parliament or the legislative assemblies. It also implements various programs or schemes launched by the government. So this is the value of the political executive. Now I will talk about the permanent executive. The civil servants constitute the permanent executives. The permanent executives are salaried civil servants who are appointed on a long term basis. So you see the difference. Political executives' tenure is not permanent, but permanent executives' tenure is for permanent, they are for long term. In my lecture also, I will discuss the difference between political executive and permanent executive in detail. The next key term is bureaucracy, a system of government in which most of the important decisions are taken by state officials rather than by elected representatives. Bureaucracy is the structure that controls the activities of people that work for large organizations and government. Next is disciplinary action. A disciplinary action is a corrective action in response to employees' misconduct, rule violation, or poor performance. Depending on the severity of the case, the disciplinary action can take different forms, including a verbal warning. Verbal warning means warning related to the job. Now, next key term is competitive examination. The example is list of competitive exams in India after graduation. Graduation means after you pass your BA. After 12th, you start graduation. You may go in any stream, medical, non-medical, humanities, or whatever you do, commerce based. But this course is called the graduation. After this graduation, you can sit in the following competitive examinations according to the stream in which you are. These are Civil Services Examination, Indian Economic Service Examination, Indian Statistical Service Examination, Combined Defence Service Examination. In short, it is called CDSE. National Defence Academy and Naval Academy Examination, and Combined Medical Services Examination. A competitive examination is an examination where candidates are ranked according to their grades and then top rankers are selected. The next is, as before the starting of the chapter, I will have some discussion on the basis of your knowledge related to today's topic. As I know the chapter is beginning today, but I will discuss the general questions. Now, my first question is, how many organs does a government has for its smooth working? This I think so because when I discussed last chapter based on legislature, that time also I told there are three organs of a government, that is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. So this is the answer. The next question is, what type of government structure does India have? This though you all must know. This is done from the very junior classes. India has parliamentary democratic structure. How many houses are there in the union legislature? So this is not any out of the track question or very difficult question. So union legislature has two houses. Now tell me, who is the first citizen of India? Come on, tell me. Who is the first citizen of India? Yes, it is the President of India who is the first citizen of India. Name the member of parliament from the city of Amritsar. It is very common name, and while our passage to the Holy Heart Residency School, we can see his house also. Name is written there. It is Mr. Ojla. Next is name the former Union Cabinet Minister in the Government of India who resigned in September 2020 as a protest against farmers related legislation. Yes, come on. Tell me, name the lady who resigned. It is Harsimrat Kaur Badal. She protested as a protest against these laws. She resigned from the Union Cabinet. Okay. Now I am going to begin today's topic, that is the executive meaning and function. Each government has three organs to run the administration smoothly. The first organ, that is the legislature, makes the laws, and the second organ, that is the executive, enforces the will of the state as approved by the legislature, and the third organ, that is the judiciary, is to protect the laws. So students, you see, the first organ, legislature, makes the laws, the second organ, executive, implements the laws, and the third organ, judiciary, protects the laws. So the rise of welfare state has increased the functions of the state, especially of the executive organ, as the state now wants to be a welfare state. So directive principles are there in our constitution. For their implementation, there are many functions to be done by the executive organ. So executive organs functions have increased a lot these days. It is the agency for running the administration and for securing the development goals of the state. The enforcement of laws and running of administration has become more important than the lawmaking function of the government. So you see, this is very important line. The enforcement of laws and running administration is more important than the lawmaking function. Laws are made once, but their enforcement goes on permanently. So that's more important. That's why the executive is more important than the legislature nowadays. The executive organ of the government now dominates the legislature. Now you see, there are three organs, that is legislature, executive, and judiciary. Now I will discuss the meaning of the executive. In broad sense, it means all the functionaries, political leaders, that is the ministers, and the permanent non-political civil servants. So this is in broad sense, means it is covering both political executive as well as permanent executives. In its narrow sense, it is taken to mean the political leaders who head the government departments. In this form, the civil servants are not included in the executive. So you see, remember the word narrow. In narrow sense, the permanent executive or the civil servants are not included, but in broad sense, they are included. Traditionally, only the narrow meaning used to be accepted by the political scientist. In modern times, however, the executive is taken in its broader sense. That includes both political executive and permanent executive. So students, nowadays broad meaning is taken by the political thinkers, and they cover both political executive and the permanent executive. The political executive performs the functions of the lawmaking and ensuring that all the laws are properly enforced. The permanent executive, that is, the civil servants or bureaucrats, run the day-to-day administration under the supervision and control of the political executive. Yes, political executive make the laws and get the laws implemented. But who is to implement? That is the permanent executive. So permanent executives work under the control of the political executive. So I think so till now you are clear that executive has two parts. Political executive means ministers. You can see the picture of our finance minister Nirmala Sitaraman, and the next is permanent executive, that is the civil servants. Now The meaning of political executive or permanent executive I will discuss. The political executive consists of the executive head of the state and other political heads of the executive departments, that is ministers. Yes, the political executive now is covering the head of the state, that's the president, and all the ministers. It is constituted by the elected representatives who are responsible to the people for the working of the government departments. It is a periodically changing executive in the sense that it changes after every general elections. As we are living in democratic state, obviously there are general elections after every 5 years. So naturally when the elections are there, after that the full executive team will also change. The change doesn't come only in the legislature, means only Lok Sabha member don't change. The ministers also change. So executive body also changes. Its members remain in office for a fixed term, around 4 or 5 years, after which they again have to contest the elections. India has elections after every 5 years, but USA has elections after every 4 years. Minister's function is to formulate policies and get these enforced by the civil servant. Means ministers formulate the policies and who is enforcing? Remember, it is done by the civil servant. So the political executive heads the government. Each minister is in charge of department of the government. The non-political, that is a permanent executive, consists of the civil servants from the lowest to the highest level who carry out the day-to-day administration of the government departments. In the broadest sense, it includes the civil servants or the members of the bureaucracy. So permanent executive simply means the civil servants or the bureaucrats who are there permanently. How are they permanent? Then I will tell you. The civil servants are politically neutral. Neutral means they are not to involve themselves in any political party's activities. Their job is to carry out the laws and policies of the government without any consideration as to which political party is in power. Civil servants are experts and professionals. So this is very interesting to know. The permanent executive consists of the team who are experts and professionals. They are specially educated and trained for their jobs and they provide expertise to government work. Subject to transfer, once appointed, the civil servants remain in office till the attainment of the retirement age and usually up to the age of 55 or 60 years. They get regular and fixed salaries. Yes, that's why they are called permanent executive because they are till the age of retirement. It can be up to 55 years or 60 years. Now, I will discuss the points of difference between the political executive, that's ministers, and the permanent executive, that's the civil servants. The political executive consists of the head of the state, that's the president, and ministers. The permanent executive consists of civil servants who work in government departments and carry out the policies and decisions of the government. Yes, students, you see, permanent executive carry out the policies and decisions, and political executive makes the decisions. Okay. Now, I will discuss the differences. The first is political character of ministers and non-political character of civil servants. The members of the political executive are political leaders. Obviously, like president, council of ministers, they all are political leaders because they are there on their seat after the elections only. The civil servants are non-political in the sense that they do not take part in party politics. Yes, they are not related with the party politics. They are non-political. They are not members of the political parties and they are not involved in the struggle for political power. The civil servants are not to involve themselves in any political party. means they are there permanently up to the retirement age. That's up to 55 to 60 years. Now, many parties can come to power, like before 2014, there was Congress which was ruling at the union level. After 2014 onwards, the BJP is ruling, but the permanent executives are not to involve themselves in the political power. They are to continue with their work. The civil servants carry out their work irrespective of any consideration as to which party is in power. They are not to be involved which party is in power. They are simply to carry on with their work. The next is policy formulation is the function of political executive. The policy formulation and decision making are the two primary responsibilities of political executive. So you see, political executive makes the policies and then they make the final decisions. The permanent executive only advises and helps the political executive. You see, they are professionals, so naturally they will advise and help the political executive in making the policies and making the decisions. So indirectly, the permanent executive is working with political executives. It is a responsibility of the political executive to get the policies implemented through the permanent executive, that's civil servants. Now, the political executive is to get the policies implemented through the civil servants. It is their responsibility. The next point of difference is political executive is responsible and accountable to the people. I think so. From the this heading only, we are clear that a political executive is responsible to the people because it is the people of India only who have elected them. As we are living in democratic state, so they are accountable to the people. It is a political executive who is accountable to the people and not the permanent executive. Permanent executive can't be accountable to people because they are not on their seat because of the people's choice. They are there on their seat due to their qualifications. In a parliamentary form of government, the political executive is immediately, continuously, and directly responsible for all its policies, decisions, programs, and activities. The permanent executive is responsible in the sense that it is not responsible to the legislature or the people. It is responsible to the political executive, and the political executive can initiate disciplinary action against any of its members who is held to be guilty of some misconduct or negligence. Yes, students, if permanent executive is found negligent in his duty, then political executive can take the action, and this type of action is called disciplinary action. However, action against them can be taken only in accordance with the civil services conduct rules. Yes, political executive can't do as anything of their own. They are to follow the civil services conduct rules, then only the action can be taken. Now, the fourth difference is political executive consists of amateurs, but civil servants are experts. The members of political executives are not specially educated and trained in respect of the departments they head. As they are in politics, obviously they started their beginning from the local level elections, then they started with the state level elections, then maybe they reach up to the national level elections. So it's not sure they are educated also, means they are experts in any subject or in any professional knowledge. So this is not even required to contest the election. Any person who want to contest the elections must be citizen of India and should not have criminal record. Something like this qualifications are required. Educational qualifications are not required to contest the elections. So I clear you with an example. A minister doesn't have the expert and professional knowledge, skill and training regarding the work being done. by his department. A lawyer can be a defense minister. So you see, both have no match. A lawyer can be a defense minister, a philosopher can be a finance minister, and a less educated person can be an education minister. So you see, the departments which the ministers are running, they are not connected with their whatever they are expert in. So this is not related to their education. So they are political executives. As against this, the civil servants are professionals and experts of the subject which they handle. So this is totally opposite. The civil servants are professionals and experts in their departments. They enter the civil services only when they have qualifications and have passed the necessary competitive examinations. Even during their career, they have to attend refresher courses and training programs. So you see, civil services are there uh, when they qualify the examination, national level competitive examination, they pass it and then they join their services. Even during their services, they attend various refresher courses and training programs just to improve their skills. The next is difference in tenure. Tenure means time period. The members of political executive once elected remain in office only for a limited time, that is 4 or 5 years. I already told you in India the elections are after every 5 years, but in USA for the lower house, that is the House of Representatives, the elections are after 4 years. So it means political executive is for limited time, maybe 4 or maybe 5 years. The civil servants remain in office for a very long period, that is up to the age of retirement, which is usually between 55 to 60 years of age. The ministers keep on changing at short and regular intervals. The civil servants keep on doing their work for a very long period, nearly 25 to 30 years. Yes, you see, political executives are there for 4 to 5 years and permanent executives are there for 25 to 30 years. Thus, there exists a clear and well defined difference between the political executive and permanent executive, that is, between the ministers and civil servants. Nevertheless, both are essential and important part of the executive. Yes, you can't say if one is for short time, like political executive is for short time, 4 or 5 years, so they are not important. They are important as they are representing democratic structure, but permanent executive are equally important because they are professionals. They have skill, they are experts in their department. So both are important to run the working of the government. Students, I have discussed in detail the differences between political executive and permanent executives. Now, there is a repetition of the topic through a chart. This will make you more clear about the topic and you will learn the subheadings also. It's for your better understanding of the topic. Now, one side of the chart there is a political executive and on the other side of the chart there is a permanent executive. I think so. By now, you know, political executive means president, prime ministers, and council of ministers, and permanent executive means all the civil servants. Okay. Now, first point of difference is related to the political leaders. The members of the political executives are the political leaders. On the other hand, in the permanent executive, the civil servants are non-political in the sense that they do not take part in active party politics. So both sides you see this is a difference. Political executive is related with the politics and permanent executive is not at all related with the party politics. The second difference is related to the struggle for political power. Now, political executive, they are members of the political parties and they are involved in the struggle for political power. Means they are struggling for power, especially when the elections are about to come. We see them, they are campaigning for their parties, and they use the media also for campaigning their political parties. Means what are they doing all this? They are doing for struggle for the political power. But on the other hand, the permanent executives are not members of the political parties, and they are not involved in the struggle for political power. And the third point of difference is party in power. Under political executive, the leader carry out their work with regard to the consideration as to which party is in power. Means the agenda of all the parties is are different. It's not same all over India. Like if BJP comes there, they have their own agendas. If Congress comes to power, it has its own agenda. So the party which is in power, the leaders work according to that. On the other hand, the permanent executives are the civil servants who carry out their work irrespective of any consideration as to which party is in power. They are to carry on their work till the retirement. They are not to see which party is in power. The next point of difference is related to the policy formulation is the function of political executive. Under this now I will discuss the other differences. Primary responsibilities. The two primary responsibilities of the political executive are: first is policy formulation and the second is decision making. But on the other hand, the permanent executive's primary responsibilities are to help and advise the political executive in policy formulation and decision making. Means political executive make the policies and make their decisions, but permanent executives help and advise in policy formulation and decision making. There's a big difference. And for helping and advising, they have professional knowledge. They are experts. That's why they are able to help and advise. Next difference is on the basis of policies implementation. Under political executive, it is the responsibility of the political executive to get the policies implemented through the permanent executive, that is a civil servant. Political executive themselves don't implement the policies. For this, they need the team. And which team they need? Team of experts. Yes, they get the policies implemented through the permanent executive, that is the civil servants. On the other hand, under the permanent executive, it is the responsibility of the permanent executive to implement the policies through their expert professionals team. Means there's a team is already there on the permanent executive side, and they have just to implement the decisions made by the political executives. The next point on which I am going to discuss the difference is political executive is responsible and accountable to the people. Now, under political executive, first point is accountability. The political executive is accountable to the people as people have elected him under democratic system. Yes, whatever political executive are doing, that's for this they are accountable to the people, because ultimately under democratic structure people have the power, because they are the final judges who will decide which party will come to power. So the political parties are accountable to the people. And on the other side, under the permanent executive is not accountable to the people, as they are selected and appointed on the basis of their qualifications. As we know, permanent executives are not appointed by the people through elections. They are appointed on the basis of their ability. They have passed the national level examination conducted by Union Public Service Commission. The next point on difference is popular choice. Popular means people. Under political executive, people can select or reject them on the basis of their work during their tenure. Tenure means for 5 years. Whatever they have done, on that basis, the people will decide in the next election if they will be selected or they will be rejected. But this side, under permanent executive, the people can't select or reject them as they are not in direct contact with the public. So permanent executives are not dealing with the public directly. So there is no role of the people to select them or reject them. They are selected by the recruitment board after the examination and appointed by the president. The next is the difference of the responsibility. The political executives are responsible to the citizens of the country. As already I told you, they are accountable to the people and they are selected by the people, so they are responsible to the people. But on the other side, under the permanent executive, they are responsible to the political executive for their acts performed during their duty. This is very important to understand. Means permanent executive are responsible to political executive. Means they disciplinary action for their any wrong thing done during their duty hours. This can be noted down by the permanent political executive and the action can be taken by them only. So political executive, for him the permanent executive is responsible. Next is the action time. Only public takes action and decides while voting for the political executive. It is the people who decide either particular parties to be selected or not. But for permanent executive, the political executive can initiate disciplinary action against any of its members who is held to be guilty of some misconduct or negligence. Action can be taken in accordance with the civil services conduct rules. Yes, already I told you the action can be taken by the political executive, but it is not like of their choice or any action can be taken. The action taken must be according to the civil services conduct rules. The next point on which I am going to discuss the difference is political executives consist of amateurs, but civil servants are experts. Now, political executive under this, the next point is professional skills. The members of the political executives are not specially educated and trained in respect of the departments they head. Like this, while discussing the topic I told you, a lawyer can be defense minister, so they are not trained or expert with the department which they are handling. They don't have professional knowledge about the department. But on the other side, the civil servants are professionals and experts of the subject which they handle because they are selected through the competitive examinations. The next point for difference is entry base. The political executive enter the politics on the family base or their political interest. Yes, students, you can see it very easily in the through media also we come to know. Otherwise, you must be knowing all the political parties. They have total family involved in the politics. Means it is a family base the children get and they involve themselves in the politics. Or otherwise also they can have their own political interest and they can join themselves in the politics. So this is what required in the political executive. But on the other side, in the permanent executive, they enter the civil services only when they have qualified the necessary competitive examinations. Here, there is no role of the family. If a father is a civil servant, the son will also be a civil servant. It's not sure, it's not matter of luck, it's a matter of hard work. If the son is also working well and working hard for the studies and all, then only he can be civil servant. The next point of difference is training programs. Now, political executives don't attend any classroom training program, but they get training by field work. Yes, political executives do the field work. They are to be out full time, they are to deal with the public directly, then they have a lot of experience of their work. But the permanent executives, during their career, they have to attend refresher courses and training programs just to polish their skills. During their job also, they are attending such things as they are already professionals, but they keep on attending such training programs. The next difference is of their tenure. Tenure means time period. Now, first is the members of the political executive, once elected, remain in office only for a limited time, that's 4 or 5 years. The example is in India it's 5 years and in USA it is 4 years. Means tenure may differ in different countries, but civil servants remain in office for a very long period, that is up to the age of retirement, which is usually between 55 to 60 years of age. So there is a big difference in their tenure. And next is the difference of change. The political executive ministers keep on changing at a short and regular intervals. So what is short and regular intervals? So after 5 years, when the elections are over, it is not only the legislature changes, means it changes not only in Lok Sabha in India, the ministers also change. So this is what change is after a short and regular interval. But under permanent executive, the civil servants keep on doing their work for a very long period, that is nearly 25 to 30 years. Yes, after graduation, anyone can sit in a UPSC, means the Union Public Service Commission competitive examination, and suppose a student qualifies this examination at the age of 26 or 27 years, then up to the age of 60 years he is working, so he serves for 25 to 30 years. So this is the difference in their tenure and change. So there exists a clear and well defined difference between the political executive and permanent executive, that is between the ministers and civil servants. But both are essential and important part of the executive. We can't say if one part is more important, the other part is less important. Both are equally important. Now students, I am going to discuss the functions of the executive. The important role that the executive plays in the working of the government can be analyzed by studying its powers and functions. The first is policy making and implementation. All actions of the state are guided by definite policies and settled plans. It is an executive which undertakes the task of policy making and the formulation of developmental plans. The primary function of the executive is to enforce laws as formulated by the legislature and to maintain law and order in the state. Each government department is responsible for the implementation of the laws concerning the functions of that department. For maintaining law and order in state, the executive organizes and maintains the police force. Each government department is headed by a minister and the day-to-day work is carried out by the expert and trained civil servants. Yes, students, you see, each minister is head of any department. Suppose railway minister is head of railway department. But it is not only railway minister who is working for his department. With him there is a team of civil servants who are helping him in executing the policies and plans made by him. This is how the policies are made and implemented. The next is appointment making functions. All major appointments are made by the chief executive. For example, the President of India appoints the Chief Justice and other judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts, ambassadors, Advocate General of India, members of Union Public Service Commission, governors of states, etc. Means all these are appointed by the President of India. So all the executives are appointed by the Chief Executive. The members of civil service are also appointed by the executive. This is mostly done on the recommendation of the recruitment commission, because after they qualify the national level exam conducted by Union Public Service Commission, the recruitment commission will recommend their name for the appointment. In India, the Union Public Service Commission annually holds competitive examinations for all India services and recruits several candidates on the merit for appointment to these cadres. The appointments are done by the executive in accordance with the recommendations of the Union Public Service Commission. So, they all are appointed by the President, but on the recommendations of the Union Public Service Commission. The next is treaty making function. It is the responsibility of the executive to decide as to which treaties are to be signed with which other countries. Treaties are always signed with other countries to maintain the foreign relations. The executive negotiates the treaties in accordance with the procedure defined by the international law and directions and dictates of the constitution of the state. Yes, no doubt for India there is a constitution, but for international level, to maintain the peace at international level, there is international law also. So the treaties are to be maintained and signed, but in accordance with the procedure defined by the international law, and this all is done by the executive. The next function is related to defense, war, and peace. The executive is the final judge of the nature and gravity of the threat to the security of the country, and it has the prime responsibility to take all such steps that are in the interest of the security and integrity of the state. As I already told you, the chief executive head is the president, and president is the supreme commander of all the three forces. So he is to decide about the war and peace. The chief executive of the state, that's the president, is also the supreme commander of the armed forces of the state. The executive has the right to declare war upon an enemy of the state. However, in United States, the Congress and not the President has the right to declare war. This is some different thing in United States. In United States, no doubt there is also democratic structure, but there is a presidential form of government where the powers of the president are controlled by the Congress. The Senate controls the president's powers, and whatever treaties and declarations and appointments are made by the president are to be confirmed by the upper house, that's the Senate. So Congress controls the president in US, and but otherwise in India the executive head like the president has the right to declare war or peace with the enemy state. The next function is foreign policy making and foreign relations. The executive formulates the goals of national interest and fixes the priorities on the basis of the geographic, human, economic, industrial, and technological factors, as well as on the basis of the nature of the domestic and international situation. The executive first formulates the foreign policy of the nation and then implements it for securing the desired goals of national interest. Yes, you know what is foreign policy? Foreign policy means the policy of a nation, how to maintain the relations with other countries. So this foreign policy is formulated by the executive. It is an executive which appoints the ambassadors of the state to other states and conducts foreign relations. So ambassadors are the people who represent a nation in other states. So it is under the order of the executive to appoint the ambassadors. The Department of Foreign Affairs is headed by the Foreign Minister, and he is responsible for the working of his department. The next is functions related to lawmaking. In parliamentary system, the ministers are also members of the legislature and they play a leading role in lawmaking. I think so. This you know very well. After the elections are over, when the members sit in Lok Sabha, the majority party leaders become the prime minister, and from his party, he only selects the members who will be the ministers. So the ministers are taken from the legislature. This is the special feature of parliamentary system of government. Most of the time, the legislature is spent in passing the government bills. A parliamentary executive plays a leading role in lawmaking by the legislature. The time when parliament is not in session, this responsibility is performed by the executive head, that's the president. In such a case, the president issues the ordinance. Yes, students, normally what happens, the laws and order are passed by the legislature during the session of the house. But suppose the time the parliament is not in session and there is urgent need of any order or law, in that time, the executive head, that's the president, he will issue an ordinance. Ordinance means an order passed by the president in case the legislature is not in its recess time is going on. So that's time the ordinance can be issued by the president. Next is financial functions. No doubt the legislature protects the national purse, but in actual practice, the executive performs a number of financial functions. It has the responsibility to prepare the budget. It proposes the new taxes or changes in the tax structure. It collects and spends the money as sanctioned by the legislature. The executive decides the ways and means through which the money is to be collected and spent. It formulates all economic policies and plans. Yes, the budget and all the financial bills are passed in the legislature, but they are planned by the executive. The next is judicial functions. The appointment of judges by the executive is regarded as a sound method which can ensure the independence of judiciary. In almost all democratic systems, the chief executive has the power to appoint judges. In India also, the president appoints the judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Change in executive does not bring any change in judiciary. Suppose if a president changes or the council of ministers with prime minister changes, it doesn't mean the judges of Supreme Court or High Court will also change. It's not possible. This shows the independence of judiciary. So this is how independence of judiciary is maintained. The next is grant of titles and honors. The example is Ashok Chakra was awarded posthumously to Lance Naik Goswami on 26 January 2021. Army sources said that Goswami had been actively involved in three such operations in which 10 terrorists were killed and one captured alive in 11 days. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan in 1987 and Nelson Mandela in 1990 are the two non-Indians of Bharat Ratna Award winners. Another important function of the executive is to grant titles and honors to the people in recognition of their meritorious services to the nation. I think so, students, you must have watched on 26 January that our president honors the many people with the titles for their meritorious functions. Such persons who do commendable work in their respective affairs of activity are granted titles by the executive. It also grants titles to such defense personnel who show exemplary courage and devotion to duty during war and peace. Even ordinary citizens are granted honors in recognition of their meritorious work in the society. All such decisions are taken by the executive. And finally, they are awarded by the President of India. Even on 26 January, many children are given bravery awards also. Now, finally, I can say at every step and in every aspect of social relations, the executive plays a key role. The welfare state has come to be an administrative state, and as such, the role of executive has come to be of utmost importance. Executive has indeed emerged as the most powerful organ of the government. Now students, today I have discussed with you the topic, that is the executive meaning and functions. Under this topic, I have discussed first of all the introduction of the topic, then I discussed the meaning of executive, then parts of executive, they are political executive and permanent executive. Then I discussed main points of difference between political executive and permanent executive. And finally, I discussed 9 functions of the executive. Students, you must read the pages 253 till 260. Students, topic related questions are: what is executive? Explain 2 parts of political executive and non-political executive. The second is discuss the functions of the executive organ of the government. Next question is, what are the types of executive? Means here you will tell again the 2 executive, political executive and permanent executive. Discuss the method of appointment of executive. Here you will tell both the executive, political executive through the elections, then the ministers are appointed by the president, and the permanent executive through competitive examinations. What is civil service? Why is it called permanent executive? As we know, they are permanently appointed till the age of retirement. Explain the difference between political executive and permanent executive. Here difference you can tell about their tenure, means political executive is for 5 years and permanent is for around 25 to 30 years, and their appointment system also, and their working system also, like political executive make the policies and finalizes the decisions, and permanent executive help in making the policies and making the decisions. Next is, why has the power of the executive grown? Nowadays, in India is trying to be a most welfare state, as nowadays each state is trying to be a welfare state. So naturally the workload of executive department has increased. Next is, the power of the legislature has declined and the power of the executive has increased. Why has it happened? So again, we will talk about the responsibilities of the executive these days, why it is increased, and how it is possible that its role has increased. Explain the nature of executive in India. Here you will talk about the nature of executive, both political executive and permanent executive. Next is, explain the various kinds of executives and the functions performed by them. I have discussed this in a chart also, their functions and the kinds of executive. Enumerate 2 functions of the Union Public Service Commission, as they conduct the examination, and they also do through the recruitment board, they appoint their the candidates who qualify the competitive examination. Next is, what is meant by the political and permanent executive. Political executive is non-permanent and permanent executive is permanent, which is not involved with politics but they are working till retirement. Next is, discuss 3 important functions of the executive. Here you can talk about any 3 functions. Okay, students, now today's topic is over. As you know, I have discussed today first day's topic, and I hope you are clear about today's topic. You must solve all the questions and watch the video again to get it more clear, and read the pages as I already told you. Okay, next time I will discuss the next topic. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.